with that, I think I'm going to turn it over to Jennifer. She can kind of tee this project up for us. There's a screenshot of our entire team. Like I said, we've got carpenters, designers, our advisors on our team. Just a really tight-knit group of people that have been together, working together, and we'll show you a little bit about our process today. So, Jennifer, you want to tell us a little bit about the background of the clients and why they came to us and what they were looking to do?
Yeah, great. Thank you, Sean. Yeah, so a little bit about these clients. It's a younger family. They relocated just down the road from their existing home. They lived in a smaller Rambler, and they really wanted a larger space. So they found their dream home, but they knew that they had to do some reconfiguration and remodeling to make it perfect for their needs. This family has 3 children. They're all now teenagers. It's a huge house. It's a 1927 built center hall colonial overlooking Minnehaha Creek. It's beautiful. So some of the things that they were looking for is they were looking to work with a remodeling company that would help keep the charm of their original house. It was important to them that they didn't lose all of the characteristics that appealed to them in an old home. But they also wanted some modern day conveniences. For example, a more open kitchen that was on their needs list. They wanted to replace all the cabinetry. The cabinets were failing. They were super old. They had tile countertops and they needed additional storage. Then on the wants category, something that they were looking for is they wanted the space to be more connected to the other spaces. They had a formal dining room in the front of the home that was completely cut off from the rest of the space. So they wanted to figure out a way to kind of make those spaces go together and feel cohesive. Ideally, they wanted to add a powder room to the first floor. They didn't have any bathroom on their first floor. And the client has elderly parents that probably visit once a week. They live just 6 blocks away. So getting that first floor bathroom was very much a priority to them. And they wanted a way to get a larger garage. The garage was 1.5 stalls, and they have an active family, so they had bikes and all of those kind of things. And they really wanted to be able to park both their cars in the garage and find a way to get some extra stuff in there like bikes and sports gear, etc. So, and then finally last on their list, which in my opinion should have been higher, they wanted to add a mudroom. So that is kind of what they were looking to do.
All right.
Well, now I am going to pass you over to Sharon so she can tell you a little bit about the space that she remodeled and she designed.
Very good. Very good. Thank you, Jennifer.
You're welcome, Sharon.
All right. So here we are at that center hall colonial. There's the front of it. As Jennifer said, the creek is out front behind us in this view. And it's your typical 1927 center hall colonial. Basically, what that means is there is a beautiful center front entryway, and that is flanked by symmetrical windows on either side. That's what makes it a colonial. And as Jennifer said, the homeowners wanted, she mentioned the powder room. They were hoping that there is some way that we could put a powder room on this first floor. And what Jennifer didn't mention, I don't think, was the fact that the homeowners have elderly parents who do come by at least once a week for dinner, and then oftentimes multiple times during the week to help out with the kids and shuffle them to their activities. So a powder room on the first floor they were interested in because the only other bath was on that second floor. And then the other thing that I'm not sure if Jennifer mentioned or not, but the homeowners really, in moving into this home, they really wanted this to be the gathering space for the whole neighborhood. They really wanted to meet their neighbors. They're into neighborhood and community, building that relationship with their neighbors. So they really wanted to make this a welcome place for everyone to stop by. So what you don't see in this photo, because this is a little earlier on, they had already, when I showed up, they had already removed this large pine tree and then had already put in a front patio, which was great because they had only been in a partial of a year when we met them. And so they did that. That was the first thing they invested in, was a patio up front so that they could sit and greet their neighbors as their neighbors wandered along the sidewalk along the creek. So that tells you how important the neighborhood is to them and how important that was to get to know their neighbors. And then we're going to move to the back of the house. What's unique about this house is that it's actually got two front facades with two unique addresses. So that is a situation because out back is not an alley. Oftentimes homes will have an alley that are right in the middle of a large city. But in this case, it did have a full-fledged street behind them. And so, and that's true for quite a few people along the Minnehaha Creek. But anyway, so what that means is that the city of Minneapolis considered both the front and the back of the house as a primary entrance and a primary facade. So that adds just a little bit of a challenge and things to consider as we're designing this space because, for example, the homeowner said, we get guests coming from the front and the back and the addresses are different. So to find us, we need to make sure that our guests and our family members can literally find, figure out which is our front, which is our back, and which address we should be greeting people from. And then secondly, Minneapolis considers the back of the house just as important as the front of the house. So there are ordinances, city ordinance that we needed to comply to from an aesthetic standpoint, which typically cities don't really have ordinances around the back of someone's house. But in this case, that was something we needed to consider. So in looking at the existing, this is the before, and the other issue with the existing property is, I don't know if you can see this, it was raining the day I took this picture, and you can just see a little bit of a reflection here on a puddle, and that is because the driveway sloped down towards the house. And so the rainwater would gather right in front of the garage. And then of course, during our beautiful falls, which turned cold, that would freeze. And so there was always an ice patch right in front of that garage door. And then there was no direct connection to their garage into their house. These are just windows here. So a person would have to walk out onto that ice and try to get into the house this direction. So anyway, it was just not a good thing altogether. And then on top of that, this railing and this, I'll say this deck that was on the top of the flat roof, that was failing and just causing some safety hazard there as well. So there were multiple reasons why this family was ready to make an investment in this home. And we'll move on. Does anybody have any questions or comments?
Well, Sharon, it's Jane. I have never seen a Minneapolis house with two addresses.
Interesting.
It is. I mean, I can see, duplexes and side-by-sides, but a single family home with two addresses, is just crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it was a challenge, and but we were able to do a few subtle things that fixed some of the problems that are associated with that. So thank you.
Very interesting.
So let's move on.
Well, I think what's interesting about this photo here is it shows kind of what Sharon and the clients had to work on with a front yard space that's also a backyard space. And, it's got some of the normal backyard features of the sitting areas and all that, but also with people driving up or walking by, is welcoming, sort of like the front of a house. So
Right.
to integrate those two things was a unique challenge here.
Yes, thank you. And this is a good picture that shows, first of all, when we get into the interior portion of the house, you'll see that there now is a direct connection from the garage into the interior of the home, but then also a nice safe. We actually raised the driveway by 6 inches, which is the limit that we could raise it in order to still maintain the windows, this window up above, as well as, and then we changed out this window. So anyway, so now they have a nice safe sidewalk and step around, so that there's only 2 steps, 2 good steps and a wide opening for anyone to walk to walk through and free of ice into that back door, which sits right here now. And then of course, for those elderly.
I have a question. This is Laura. How long is the driveway?
Yeah.
Your driveway? How long and how wide?
The width is a standard width now, and I'm going to say if that's 18, it's about 22 wide, the driveway, maybe 25. The length, it wasn't all that long. Well, I'm going to say 40 feet, 50. Sean, 60?
That's what I was gonna guess too.
It's not unusually long.
No, but it's not short.
I would
It's
describe
just-
it maybe as 2 cars parked end to end about.
Yes,
You
2
could get-
cars
you
end
could
to end.
essentially park 4 cars on that driveway. 2 cars end to end is about what it was from my recollection.
Good to know. Thank you.
Yes, very good.
Good question.
And then, as you can see, plenty of gathering space here in the rear yard as well, or the secondary front yard. A nice gathering space, easy access into the kitchen. You'll see now when we get into the interior side for that grilling and the activities that go on here. With the preteens or young teens, when we did this space, they really wanted not only for neighbors to stop by, but they really wanted the friends of their teenage kids or their young preteens to feel comfortable coming over, and just they wanted lots of people at their house all the time. They're that type of family. So anyway, lots of gathering space now inside and outside. All right. So this is the before floor plan. So I'll direct your attention. This is the primary, that centered colonial entrance. Just a little vestibule here, and then we step further in to the hall. And there's that staircase, that center hall staircase that's very typical of a colonial. And then again, typical of a colonial, if a person turns right, there's that formal living room. And if a person turns left from there, into the formal dining room. The kitchen was sitting at the back of the house, and still is, but it's sitting at the back of the house. The other thing that's typical of a colonial, oftentimes, not quite as often, but it is a signature. If you stand here at the front, you can look all the way through to the rear exit. So there's that secondary back entryway right there. And as you can see, there's no direct connection into the garage. You have to go all the way around into the garage, the large garage door. And that was troublesome. And then notice that as a person stands here in the front hall, you could take a right into that living room, and it was a formal living room, very typical of the 1927 standards. And then that formal dining room. But there was only the one connection to the front living room. And because this home has no family room, they were really hoping for some type of more additional connection to this living space, because that's where their television was in an armoire. So they wanted some, and a nice fireplace. So no connection to that area right now. And then this little place, we called it the Nook. I think originally it was used as a butler's pantry because of its connection to the kitchen, which is right here. This was not being used by the current homeowner because it was a small space and they just didn't know how to use it, honestly. They called it a Nook, and they said it's just another door into the kitchen. So they wondered what they could do with that space. And then I'll draw your attention to this area right here. This is actually, there's a laundry chute right here. Laundry chute right there. This is the closet that was serving this front hall for guests. And this was actually originally that might have been a dumbwaiter. We don't know. It was just this cavity of a space that we weren't quite sure why it was there, but we were anticipating it could have been a dumbwaiter, which was no longer in use. Let's see, what else can I tell you? Otherwise, the cooktop was here, sink was here. So it had a good triangle, but just very contained and tight. Any of my team members have anything to add to this?
I have another question. This is Laura.
Let's say that one more time.
This is Laura.
Laura.
So what is the orientation of the house? Meaning, window, the front of the house, directionally speaking, east, west, north, south. What is the orientation of the house?
West.
The front is west
The
facing.
front here, correct.
All right. So the
Mhm.
obviously the kitchen and the garage and all of that's in east, and then this what I would
East
call a
and
breakfast nook would be to
I'm
the
sorry,
north.
east.
I call this a breakfast nook.
Yeah.
That's to the north, correct?
Yes,
All right. Thank you.
correct. Good question. So here we are. We have just stepped into the home. This is before the remodel. There's that beautiful, beautifully trimmed out staircase, which we really felt no need to touch. It's beautiful and well done. Right back here, you'll notice a closet. That is a closet, and that was serving that center hall. You can see right through from the front door to that rear entry, as we saw in the original back entry area in that elevation. And then if you just turn slightly to the left, you'll see this is the formal dining room, and it has this beautiful later on here in a better view. But basically, to help you understand, this is the area that the kitchen encompasses right here. And this is the nook, what we call the nook back in here. They had a desk in there. They were kind of using it as I'll just say, kind of a landing space for homework and calendars and things like that. Any other questions here?
Did you keep the
And I
original?
think we'll go on. Here's another picture. Yes.
Oh, sorry, we had a
Laura, did you have another
question.
question?
Did you keep the original wood floors? They look to be extremely well maintained and beautiful in color.
Yes, absolutely. They are well maintained. They have been. And yes, we did keep them, and we in fact added to them, and you'll see that here in an upcoming slide.
What type of wood is it?
This is showing, now we're in the interior side of the kitchen, and we see two openings. One is going to that nook area, and one is going out to the formal dining room. So there were excess doors basically going to and from the kitchen. And that's just something to note.
Laura?
And then I'll keep going here.
Laura,
There's the beautiful.
That's all right. I see oak floors in the kitchen that look like mahogany in formal rooms.
We'll,
Yes,
we'll have a better
the
photo when
kitchen,
we add this stuff.
Yes, we do have a better photo. The floor that we are refinishing, and you'll see in the next couple slides and in the Matterport, is a quarter-sawn oak. So we definitely wanted to keep as much hardwood in this space. What you'll see here, I'm drawing your attention to these windows here, very typical in 1927. They were gorgeous and really had a view out that window, and the homeowner really enjoyed standing here at the sink looking out those windows. Unfortunately, this kitchen was very, very cold. Even though it only had the one exterior wall, it was very cold. Someone had taken out the original radiator, so it was cold in there. And then I took note of this window, the window here, because they were the old style pocket windows, so they actually retracted into the wall, which unfortunately caused poor insulation, no insulation, quite literally. So that was one issue contributing to the cold aspect of the kitchen. And here's just another image, it needs updating just from a visual standpoint and aesthetics, and just really not a lot of space. And then this last picture really shows you, now this is that back entry or that back door. You can see that, did I mention the closed chute? There was a closed chute right here, and then right here is where I think that was a dumbwaiter. It was just an open void area, and then the closed chute was right here. And then from about this point forward was the closet on the far side. And then for a family with 3 teens, an active family, one not a full-size refrigerator. It was a small, maybe 33 wide, maybe 30 wide. It was tight. So this image here, I just want to point out, so in this upper image, we are standing in that nook looking out into the formal dining room. Here again, this is pine, I think it's pine, but this is that beautiful quarter sawn oak out here. And then there's that second door into the kitchen with the refrigerator. And there was no reason to have two doors there in the modern lifestyle. I'm sure in the 1927 it made sense, but it didn't anymore. And then this is that nook again, where it was just kind of becoming a family work center or area for homework. They weren't quite sure how to use that. All right, so then we'll move on here. So here is an after image of the floor plan. So again, here's that front entryway. So if we were to step into this hallway, we would glance right into that living room, glance straight ahead, and now there is a full mudroom back here. Glance to the left. This has always remained a dining room, a formal dining room. And we now have a wide connection here, and you'll see it in the 3Ds when I bring up the 3D images, but this is now wide open. So we've got the kitchen in the same, almost exact same footprint, but it pushes into this dining room. And it is still a formal dining room. However, they wanted to really truly live in their house. So it is the place that they sit down every night for dinner as a family. So even though it's formal, they use it every day. And now this space over here, this nook, we've been able to fit a powder room in right there. And it's just big enough. We squeezed it right in there. And then over here, we're calling this the family center. So you'll see in later 3Ds, it really became a workspace. And actually right now in this environment that we're in, it's serving a good purpose as a nice work at home station. And then we've got this, I call it a connected island. We removed that closet that was here to gain space in the kitchen. We saved the clothes chute, which I was quite adamant about. Being a mother of 3 teenagers myself, I couldn't imagine going up to the second floor and the third floor to gather laundry and then all the way down to the basement to try and do all that laundry. So I said, you know what, we're going to try to save that laundry chute. Let's see what else. And now what you see, all of these shaded walls are new walls. We tore down that garage. And now we were able to, this right here is all mudroom. And it's a good size, really, because this is repurposed space. And then what is new is this opening right here is a connection now to this formal living room, whereas there was no other connection before. So really, it really opened things up for the family. Any questions, team or guests? Very good, thank you.
I have another question regarding the living room. As it, then looking to the right, it looks as if you also took down the walls on either side of the fireplace and opened it up to the sunroom. Is that correct?
Very good that you noticed that. No, we did not. This previously had been converted to originally it was a sunroom, and previous owner had turned it into a conditioned space. So we did not do any work in this study, but thank you. Yeah.
That would make a very nice media room.
Thank you for noticing.
There are doors on it. There are doors on it. So you might have noticed in the other rendering, maybe the doors were shut. So it looked like it was solid, but yes, it is the same as it was before.
All right, very good. It would make a very good media room.
All right, shall we take a tour? So what we have for you is a tour of the finished space, and I think you will enjoy it. I'm going to stop my screen share, so I'll disappear for a minute here, and team members, if you can help me out here.
Yeah, no problem, Sharon. So yeah, we just wanted to show this project. I think you're gonna really enjoy doing the walkthrough here on this to see a lot of the details. Just kind of pay particular attention to that. One of the special treats of these older homes is being able to get the crown moldings, the chair moldings, all of those types of things that are original to the house, and particularly where we take out walls of trying to replicate those, tie those all in. I think you'll get to see some of the craftsmanship of our carpenters and some of the detail that Sharon and our other designer, Jamie, put into projects to make sure all of those things come together the way they need to.
I would also encourage our attendees here to really look at how well natural light flows through this main level after Sharon got done with reconfiguring and removing some of the walls. Gives you a really good idea of how compartmentalized these typically are and what happens when we help open them up. So look for those things. They're tremendous.
All right.
All right.
You'll be seeing the Matterport now.
Yes. Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
Excellent. All right, I'm trying to make it as big as possible here. Are you seeing it good, Sean?
Yeah, it looks great.
Yes?
Looks great,
Whole
Sharon.
screen,
Okay. Very good. So we have just stepped into this home. So what I'm just going to help us understand where we are. So we just stepped into that front entryway. There's that beautiful staircase that we did not touch. It was just beautiful. And now as you look down this hallway, there is no closet anymore because we repurposed that closet. The closet used to be right here. And in fact, we did, as I said, we kept the clothes chute, which is just right about here in this, behind this wall. As you can see, this arched opening is here and always was. We did not do anything with that arched opening. That remained just the way it is. But now you get just a little bit of a peekaboo into that kitchen space, both from here and here, this little peekaboo. And what we did is opened up this wall here, okay? So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna do a 360 here so you can kind of get the feel for where we are. So I'm just going to swing around here. We look left, there's that formal dining room. And then we're gonna swing around and look right. And there's that beautiful full formal living room out into what used to be that porch, sunroom. It's now conditioned space. And then we're gonna swing around again. And we will take a tour. Are you ready?
We're
So
ready.
we're gonna step into this space. We're gonna step into this space. Thank you, Bjorn. Just wanna make sure you're all there. I haven't left you behind at the front door. Beautiful dining room space. And now as we swing around, we see quite a bit of that kitchen. What we did here is we basically took down this wall here. And that was key in finding that connection to the kitchen from the dining room. And we were able to get a nice long, what I call a connected island in here with seating for four, I believe, 4 or 5. And a good workspace. The sink is still in the exact same spot. New Marvin window right there over that sink. And a good cooktop space. So what I'm going to do is just swing around. Now there's that nook, and we'll talk a little bit more about that nook and how it's repurposed. But first I wanted to just step into the kitchen a little deeper so we could have a better look. You're all still with me?
Yeah, and I would point out here, Laura, you had asked about the wood floors. So we replicated those wood floors. Like Sharon said, they were quarter sawn oak. It was actually a mix of different types of oak, 75% and 25%. Our wood flooring contractor actually went out there and was counting boards to figure out the right mix so he could replicate and duplicate that into the kitchen.
Well done. Is that a Cambria or a marble countertop? The one with the
On the island,
yeah, the island. The well,
on
not,
the island or the connected island, that is granite.
was it granite?
And
Or-
then on the perimeter, that is a quartz product
all right.
on the perimeter of the kitchen. But
The
in the
workspace,
foreground on the island, that is a granite.
Mhm.
Very good. So I think what was key here is just to open this up here so we could just get that little bit of a connection to this beautiful staircase. But not only that, in thinking about the family They really wanted teens to gather at this house. So now we got plenty of room here for people to gather to converse around the island, because that's what we do nowadays, right? But 1 or 2 people can actually be back here and conversing across. So that's why I call it a connected island, because even though there's a wall, it really does act as a table, and people can converse across it. And then, let's see, I'm just going to swing this way a little bit. There's that refrigerator. Really now, as you're standing here, you can get that long view right through that beautiful arched opening, double arched opening, right through to the long sight line out to the direction of the porch. And then let's swing around this direction and step deeper into the kitchen, because now we see that beautiful, we've got a nice long view out the new Marvin window. And what I was so, as a designer, I really wanted to make sure we stayed period appropriate. So I worked hard at duplicating those original windows to truly look like they still were installed in 1927. But they now have the energy efficiency and the operability of the new Marvin windows. So the homeowner is just tickled. She loves it because she still has her nice view, and they're operable. The windows were so in such rough shape that she could not even open them in her last kitchen, and these are very functional.
Those are
And
casement
then,
windows, correct? Casement.
Yes.
yes,
break
let me
out?
think. Actually, these are awning. These
Oh,
are
really?
awnings.
Oh,
So
they're
they could be,
awnings. I understand.
I believe these are, yes, these are all awnings, and that's just so that they can open. The neighbor's home is quite close,
I
so
know.
she wanted to be able to pop those open and get a little breeze in, still extending a little bit of privacy because they don't open quite as wide as a typical casement.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm going to step deeper into the kitchen. There's that cooktop now, and just creates a nice center feature with this beautiful tile. I can't express to you how beautiful it is, and it's very appropriate textures and motifs, period appropriate to the home. And then I'm just going to swing around because what I really want to show you, let's do a little pirouette here. Now, as you look, if we kind of squish ourselves as close to that range as possible, we get a view all the way, I'm not quite there, but we get a view all the way into the mudroom here, and then all the way out to the front of the house, which is where that Minnehaha Creek flows through. So now we're really feeling the full north, south, east, and west in this home, and truly have a connection to not only the extended rooms, but to the outdoors.
Sharon, this is also a good spot to kind of, for people to look at the trim and the crown and things above the opening, how we tied in the existing crowns into the new cabinetry, and all of that. There's just a lot of details in that area that Ed had to pull together.
Yes. Thank you, Sean.
Mm-hmm.
So what I've done is just taken a really one big step closer to that range. And now you can see that connection to the living room here. So now people can really flow through that house and have multiple means to get from one end to the house to the other, instead of walking through each other's space. And then to Sean's point, I want to point out our lead carpenter did an excellent job with the original 1927 trim. We really wanted to honor the time-honored trim. And when we opened this up here, we chose not to make it an arched opening because the two front arched openings really are kind of a pair and act as a pair. And they just call so much attention to that front entryway and the colonial aspect of the home that we chose not to make this an arched opening because we felt that would dilute the power of the arches in the front of the house. So we chose to keep this straight across, and then our lead carpenter did a fabulous job in securing trim that matched the original 1927 trim, which is no small feat. It is tough to do, to find and secure, particularly because it typically takes a custom order and can get very pricey with because we only needed a very small amount. We only needed just a very small amount, honestly. So it can get very pricey because oftentimes they want to run. We weren't placing a very large order for trim. So anyway, so we kept a really nice tall crown here, and as we go through the house, you'll see some other indications of the existing 9-inch baseboard and this crown here. I'm going to step back over here to illustrate a little bit better, but all of this trim was existing and we tied into it. So we very purposely, how can I say it, extend this table back so we'd have a good transition point to maintain this chair rail here. And then same up here, I don't know if you can see that, but this crown treatment, we really made purposeful decisions so that we had good transitions, so that we knew when we got to that finished stage, we could really make that trim just stay.
Question.
Does that answer your question?
What are the ceiling heights? And did you maintain the same ceiling heights throughout the remodeling process of the flow of rooms?
Yes, very good questions. Yes, the answer is yes. Right there, this ceiling matches this ceiling height, always has. This is the original plaster ceiling, which we took great care in not cracking. And then this, of course, was all torn out. We tore it down to the studs. So this is a new ceiling and it does match the height, yes.
Are they 8-inch tall, 8 feet or 9 feet tall?
I am drawing a blank right now, but I think they are 8.
Probably for 1927.
Yeah, actually they're slightly higher than 8. I think they were like 8'3" or so.
All right.
For some reason. That's a good question. You're stumping me. I just drawing a blank. Skinny up right in that corner, because then what I want to do is wrap around again and take us into the mudroom. Are we ready to go there?
Sharon, there was one question somebody asked. I
All
think
right.
they got an answer. Darius had asked about the microwave, but can you show that again just quickly in case anybody else was wondering where that is?
Yes. So we're going to stand here and swing around. There it is. So this homeowner did not feel a strong need to have a microwave. A lot of our clients struggle because they don't really use their microwave much. Oftentimes it's simply for heating up coffee or popping popcorn or thawing, maybe thawing something. But so in the end, they said, no, we definitely want a microwave, but we don't want it front and center. So we tucked it back here and it's just a small microwave. The other thing is that the family does, all 3 kids pack their own lunch for school. So this is the countertop where they stand at and every day make their own lunch and take the big lunch to school. Forgot about that until just now, but then they had access to the microwave and all 3 could stand here and put their lunches together.
Mm-hmm.
Does that help? Good sized pantry over here for all of those things they needed in their lunch. All right, so let's step in. This is the mudroom. Let's go ahead and step in. So now as we look, we have a clear look to the front door right there. And we're gonna spin around a little bit here and we have a clear look right to that back door now. This is the mudroom here. That front closet that we removed in order to repurpose to the kitchen. Now, this is a small closet, just big enough for things like grilling tools and mosquito spray and that sunscreen and more mosquito spray because we live in Minnesota. And then this door is the original door. We repurposed it from the front. And even the hardware, this is the original 1927 hardware on that door handle that we saved and repurposed right there. On the floor here is an LVT. And this LVT in particular, this passes the Minnesota test because it's got, it's mainly gray and white. So if you can picture all those teens coming in from the exterior where there's snow and road salt, which turns white when it dries, this passes the Minnesota road salt test. So it's just a beautiful floor, but on top of it, it's very functional for Minnesotans. We're going to step deeper in. Well, actually, with this view, you get a nice view of that. The fixtures, the light fixtures were so fun to pick out in this home, and the homeowner actually chose this one. She found it while we were at the lighting showroom, and it has such a pretty crystal shade, and then it also creates this nice light pattern on the ceiling, which is just beautiful.
Art Deco.
And on top of that, it wasn't very expensive. It was a good find. So I'm going to step here and we're going to swing around because what I want to show you is the mudroom. Plenty of hooks now for backpacks. This is a hockey family and a baseball family. So sports bags, snow clothes, lots of hooks. There's hooks on the wall here and then behind us. But I wanted to show you this. This is the original door. We didn't touch this, left it alone. This is the original door to the lower level. But just really a good traffic flow now throughout this space. I'm going to spin us around now. There's that connection to the brand new door that goes out to the garage. So now we've got a nice, safe way of getting those elderly parents into the house from the garage, from the driveway, and then we're going to swing around this direction. There's another Marvin awning window, which is just delightful. We laughed about it because the sport equipment that ends up in this on these hooks are not all that fresh smelling. So the homeowner laughed about being able to open that beautiful window to let the fresh air blow in. Mm-hmm. And what I really want to show you here is we're going to step closer to the exterior because now you will see how beautiful that gathering place is on the secondary front door of this house. So now it's a gathering place back here for people passing by, neighbors passing by, and just a nice gathering space for the whole neighborhood. Anyone have any questions, comments?
It's an extremely large, multi-purpose driven mudroom area. It's well conceived.
Multi-purpose and really it flows, you know, a full family of 5, they can single file, you know, in and just march right into this house, dropping their belongings as they go deeper into the house. So that was the goal, so that they don't have that congestion as they enter.
What about HVAC? Did you have to do any updating to the HVAC systems? I see radiators still in the dining room.
Yes, very good. So the original radiators stayed as is. We put a fresh coat of paint on them to make them match the bright white color. This is actually a radiator here too. So we did add radiant heat into this space. It is, I'll step a little closer. It is a newer slimline model. See how tiny it is? It's just sticks out about 1 inch from the wall, whereas those 1927 radiators stuck out about 14 inches, 13 inches. But this is nice and streamlined. In fact, this is the homeowner's vacuum cleaner right here. So just another little space that does not get taken up by radiators. Any other questions or comments regarding this mudroom before we go to that powder room area? No? All right. We're almost done with the tour, but we need to check out that powder room.
Sharon, maybe as you're moving along towards there, just follow up on the HVAC system. Obviously, the radiant heat. Also have, they added air conditioning, you can see in the ceiling, that was done prior to us. But efficiency was a really important thing for them. This is an older house. It actually didn't have insulation in the walls. And so when we did the kitchen, we weren't able to insulate the entire house, but in the kitchen, we did insulate in there. Originally, they actually had a situation where they could store things in the lower cabinet that was so cold, they could put like milk in there in the winter and it would stay cold. So we addressed many of those issues through the process, which are, you know, fairly typical things that we have to consider as we're remodeling a project in a house of this age.
Mm-hmm. I was wondering about the AC, so central. So I'm glad that you
Yes.
addressed that as well. Good.
So now we're in that space that we call the nook. And now we are able to fit a nice desk in here, corner seated. We called this the family center because naturally the kids wanted to be near the kitchen when they worked on homework, when they got home from school. And now I think it's getting used quite a bit with the situation that we're in with the pandemic. But a nice place for someone to really do some good amount of work. And then here's that powder room. It's modest in size. We were able to get a pocket door in here, and sink over here, toilet over here. So just the right size. We squeezed it in, but it works, and it's an adequate size. And then we still maintained a good amount of space here for that desk. And you know, it's just more like a family planning as far as, you know, calendars and Post-it notes, some of those things that just kind of keep a family running. Any other questions or anything you'd like to see in with this tour?
Anything special about the garage itself, such as built-in
It's not
workshop space or storage space and so forth? Is it in
storage. There is storage at the.
Yeah, and is it insulated?
Yes, in fact, they did want it insulated just enough so that they could store things out there without things freezing. Again, it's a hockey family, so a lot of sporting material, a lot of sporting gear and stuff like that. There is storage along that front wall, basically the wall that's common with right behind the kitchen, the wall that's common between the kitchen and the garage. Right beyond that, there's a good amount of storage and very adequate for today's size vehicles. The garage that we tore off was sized for not the SUVs that we have today.
Model A's.
All right. Yes, very good. I'm going to stop my share here, and we're going to move on to our other portion of our presentation.
Thank you.
All
Thank
right,
you. Just,
so here we are again,
open it
back
up
to,
if anybody has any other questions.
I've said enough.
We
I
appreciate
would
the
beg to
questions.
differ. I think Laura has so much to say, and we would welcome her to say more.
Oh, flattery will get you somewhere.
we just have a few more slides here. The tour that we just took was so worth it, but I just wanted to, just a quick recap. Here we are with some still shots. Anything to add? Anyone? Just pipe in.
How long did the project take?
I believe
14
the
weeks.
construction on this, sorry, Jennifer, I didn't hear that. I don't know if everybody else did.
No.
I said I think the construction portion took about 14 weeks. Sorry, my internet is not stable today.
That's fast. Efficient.
One of the things
Yes,
that
we
do
really
is we
started
spend
with the
a lot of time
garage.
up front. So, sorry, we spend a lot of time up front on the design, so all of the decisions are made before we start the project. really helps us move that project along, particularly the disruptive part where we're opening up the house and things like that. So yeah, we try to keep things moving, definitely.
Did you stay within their budget, or did they decide to blow it up a little bit?
So I'll let Jennifer answer that question because she had worked with them to establish the initial budget and work through all the pricing things. But generally, yeah, that's one of our strengths, is just helping people make informed decisions so that they can control that budget as we go through the process.
So initially when I met with them, we established a budget range like we always do up front. And I always ask the question, do you want to explore things outside of this budget range? And some people say, no, I don't want to. And others are like, well, if it's really cool, we'll look at it. In this particular case, their scope grew a little bit. So they did look at things outside their budget range, but it wasn't drastically outside. All the decisions that they made were fully informed. So they knew the direction they were going, and they made really good choices on things.
Very good.
I hope that answers your question.
It does, absolutely, yes.
Yes, and I do recall that we were a fair amount into the construction when the homeowner decided he truly did want to insulate the garage. That was one thing that he said, you know what, I've gone back and forth, and now that I see it, I want to insulate that garage. So we presented him with a price, and he made his choice. So he ultimately ended up wanting to insulate it. That's the one thing that I can think of them adding after we had actually been, actively, we're towards the end of the project, or not end, but fair enough along. But usually we've got everything worked out so that we have everything planned, so that when we start construction, we really have all the needs and wants and wishes and the selections made.
Was the garage the last major component that was actually constructed? Was the original house itself done first, and then, or was it all in tandem?
It was in tandem. It was done in a logical order based on construction necessity, so we didn't have to duplicate things. Something that is really nice and unique about our process, Lauren and I have done this a really long time, and we both know realistically what things cost. So we set realistic budget parameters right from the get-go. So our clients really appreciate that because they know what they're getting into. And then by the time we get to our actual contract, all of the decisions have been made. So we don't really have huge overages because we've done everything up front. We're a design first company.
Fire up.
Very good. So we are now on our next screen, and I'm going to let Bjorn take over.
Sure. Thank you, Sharon, and wonderful project. What you've just watched is a very traditional period home, and I want to give you a little bit of a window into what we have coming up here in the next month in June. We have 3 new happy hour home tour scheduled for June 11th and June the 18th and June the 25th. And you have a little bit of a taste for what you can expect there. As you saw right now, Sharon walked you through a 1927 home. We're going to be dealing with 1990s modified 2-story on the 11th of June. And then we're going to be talking about a traditional 1990s 2-story whole home remodel, basically with a kitchen main level and a lower level on the 18th. And then what's interesting is on the 25th, we'll be dealing with a fairly new home, actually built in 2010, where we ended up doing a kitchen and main level project here very recently. So what's nice about what you can expect to see is that we work on every type of vintage that you can think of in terms of homes. And I think Laura will be happy to hear. I know that you live in a 60s Rambler, and we're actually producing a podcast series where the first podcast episode will be dealing with the wonderful 1950s and 60s Ramblers and what's possible with them. So I'm sure we may exchange some info on that later on. But Sharon, if you could go to the next slide, and we'll talk a little bit about our design process. So what you see in front of you is, and Jennifer alluded a little bit to how we come at our craft. When our design team, Sharon and Jamie, gets involved, we not only look at one way of doing things. So in our project planning process, we come up with 3 unique plans. Jennifer spoke a little bit about how we address budgets also, and that is what we want you as our homeowners to be able to see what's possible. And in these 3 unique plans, we, like Jennifer said, if we want to explore maybe ideas that might take you over the original budget range, just so that you can see what's possible, we do that. And in this slide that you see one kitchen that has been demonstrated in 3 different ways, laid out in 3 slightly different ways. And that also means that the budget range, the investment for these plan 1, plan 2, plan 3 will also be different. And the interesting part about this very, very interactive and collaborative process with our homeowners is that typically we end up with a hybrid plan. You take a few items and features from design 1, and you may take a few items from design 3, and then we combine the best of all worlds so that everything on your wish list gets addressed, and we create a plan, optimal plan for the investment level that you feel most comfortable with. So that's our process, which is very unique. And Jennifer mentioned one other aspect, which is really important, is that our pricing, the way we go at it, is that we will have everything priced before we sign a construction contract. And that means that our clients have a informed decision making platform when we enter into construction contract. Explore what we need to explore, and then end up with informed decisions in terms of plans and budgets. Next slide, Sharon, please. And what you see here is just one tool that we have in a virtual world, because so much of what we do has to do with space planning and material selections and pulling together the color palette and the palette for the entire design direction. And what our design team does is we use large images and visuals together with physical samples. And in this day and age, when we do a little bit more on the virtual side, we provide really large and good images for you to see the final material selections. And then typically the really important items, we even courier to your home so you can see, touch, and feel the most critical components that go into the design. Same thing with, for instance, plumbing fixtures and faucets. Every single little detail matters. And that is where our design team with Sharon and Jamie, they are very particular about having you see the entire picture, and everything becomes cohesive. You saw the example here in a 1920s home. It's so important that what we do, everything is cohesive, and it belongs, that there's a nod to the original architecture and to the original style of the home, so that everything flows. And that's one of the biggest challenges for our design team, is to do that. So I'm going to turn it over to Jennifer. I'm really glad you guys were on here. And Jane, this was probably really important for you to see this vintage. I'm going to turn it over to Jennifer, and she'll talk a little bit about how our initial consultation process works. Have at it.
Thank you, Bjorn. Okay, so how our initial consultation process works. Right now we've done some modifications and we're working primarily virtually. So you send in a request through our website, or you call Bjorn or myself. You can see our numbers listed there to the left. And we reach out to you and we discuss kind of your goals. We ask you to fill out a needs, wishes, and wants form and send it back to us along with some photos of your space so we can prepare for our meeting. Next, we set up a Zoom call And we have prepared some different projects that are similar to the one that you're considering. And we talk more about your goals. We delve in, kind of get the whole picture from things. And then we give you a realistic budget range. If you like what you're hearing, then we match you with one of our designers and we start working on building your dreams. So you'll get to work with Sharon or Jamie, and they'll really put together a package that is unique to you. So we would love to hear from you. And if you have any questions after, feel free to stay on here and ask them, because we'd like to talk with people and just hear how we can help. So thank you again for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well done, Team New Spaces.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's a lot of fun.
Good.
I look forward to the Rambler series.
You'll hear more about that soon.
I have turned my home into a Frank Lloyd Wright inspired jewel box, and it's ready for its final destination.
You
love
now
it.
have me very intrigued. Let me ask you, have you been to Taliesin West?
I've been to West twice, and I've been to East once. I've been to Falling Water. I've been to just about every last damn Wrightsonian property ever built, commercial or residential.
Nice.
I
We
love
will
it.
have lots to talk about.
Very good.